And welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, LeBron James talks the Lakers. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, LeBron James talks about the Lakers offseason. What does he like? What does he not like? It's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free and never behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out. I suddenly became Canadian with over 24,000 subscribers to the channel, all of whom, Andy, were listening intently to LeBron James speaking to the media. We mentioned in our bonus show over the weekend, signed his deal with the Lakers officially. No real surprises in there, but a lot of impact to the roster, which we'll talk about over the course of the show in terms of LeBron keeping the Lakers under the second apron. But he talked about the coaching staff and the inability of the front office to make any moves. He talked about Bronny, so plenty to break down there, and we'll get to it. We'll get to the first two games of the Summer Pro League experience for the Lakers, which were decidedly underwhelming, but worth talking about.
It's just the California Classic. It's not the big Summer League.
That's true. It's the warm-up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily, every day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. So we'll get to the Summer Pro League stuff. Bronny did not play on Sunday because of a swollen knee, and I didn't miss out. I didn't miss much. It was an ugly game for the
Maybe
Lakers.
They missed him. Maybe they missed Bronny. You know. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
That's right.
The crowd at the California Classic at one point was chanting, "We want Bronny." So for all of the polarization that comes with Bronny James and LeBron's presence and involvement getting him onto this team, the folks at the California Classic showed up wanting to watch Bronny play.
For sure. Let's start with Dad, though. He spoke with the media, covered a lot of talked, I think it seems individually to Dave McMenamin of ESPN, had broader press conferences up at Team USA. So this is really the first time he's had a chance to comment both on the contract, on Bronny, on the state of the Lakers offseason, all of those things. Where do you want to start? You talked about the coaching staff as well. What stuck out to you, Andy?
I would say the first thing that jumped out was just him talking about why he ultimately took a little bit less than $3 million off the max so he could do his part to keep the Lakers. Right now, I believe it's about $45,000 under the second apron. There are expectations that one way or another, the Lakers will find a little bit more wiggle room. But he said, quote, like when you're in a relationship, like I've been married for a while now, I've been with my wife since high school. There's certain things that sometimes you have to do. You have to understand in a relationship, in order for a relationship to work, both sides have to work. Me being able to be in a situation where I can protect the franchise under the second apron, understanding this new thing is very hard on a lot of teams as far as them trying to get better and whatever the case may be. I've been in this relationship with the Lakers going on 7 years. I'm absolutely okay with the pay cut. So, we've talked about this before, Brian, that in a lot of ways, this relationship between the Lakers and LeBron has at times been frosty, at times has been seemingly fantastic and enthusiastic. At times it has seemed like a marriage of convenience. At times it seems like a marriage where the spouses talk about each other behind their backs a lot, wanting to make sure that all of their friends are on either team husband metaphorically or team wife metaphorically. But they both, at the end of the day, both sides, I think, want this relationship to work, even if it isn't always perfect. I think both of them, at the end of the day, have more reasons to want the thing to be together than not be together. And like, if you've ever been in an actual relationship, like LeBron said, comparing it to marriage, you know that there are times that in order to make the thing work, 5,000 foot view, you sometimes have to do things that I don't even want to say that you don't want to do. Just sometimes you have to do things that aren't fun, but you recognize I got to do this because big picture, this is necessary to thrive as well as you can.
I think, I heard a great comment. I was listening to a show this weekend. It described an old quote from, I think it was actually Ruth Bader Ginsburg's mom or something like that.
No politics, Brian.
But basically a successful marriage requires a certain amount of deafness where you just have to pretend you don't hear things or don't see certain things and you just ignore it. And and then it's not a thing. If I didn't see it, if I didn't hear it, it can go on. Now that doesn't necessarily happen that way with the Lakers. And, and it's a strange thing in an employee-employer relationship when the employee has more juice, so to speak, has more ability to sway public opinions, is the more sympathetic figure. Even that character is LeBron James, who is not beloved by Lakers fans in the way that Kobe was, or Magic or Kareem or guys like that.
Hell, Pau Gasol
or Pau.
He's not loved the way Pau was.
But that said, I think if you asked fans, where their greater level of faith is in, right? I mean, I think LeBron recognizes that, he's got a higher approval rating than the front office. And so, there's always been a kind
and
of
he wants to maintain it.
Sure.
He wants to maintain it.
And, the dynamic between LeBron and the front office in terms of leaks, in terms of, the back and forth, some of the passive aggressive stuff, some of the stuff you hear coming from the organization and hear behind the scenes or whatever it might be. It's not out of line for what happens with stars on other teams. It's not out of line with how things worked when Kobe was playing. It's like this is fairly typical stuff, but it is, I'm sure, extremely frustrating for the employer, the team giving him all this money and all this stuff that, they just kind of sometimes have to take it. And that's the nature of sports. But I mean, there's always been a transactional aspect to this relationship. And I think LeBron, likes Jeannie. I think he likes Jeannie a lot. He seems to get along with her very well. I think he's fine with Rob. I don't think necessarily he thinks it's the best run organization on the planet. I don't know if he would tolerate the Lakers, this context, this version of Lakers. Pretty sure he wouldn't. Certain aspects of it, if he were 30 instead of 40, but he's not. He's 40. He's not 30. His family,
or if he was 40, but this organization was not located in Los Angeles,
right? Well, it wouldn't be here.
No, but you know what I'm saying, though.
Right.
Same setup, but this was hell. I'll even say, up the 5, Golden State. I don't know if he would be quite as tolerant with the exact same thing.
Right.
There's a lot of it that is very specific to I want things to work in Los Angeles.
LeBron wanted to be in Los Angeles, which is how the Lakers got him. Lure of the Lakers, yes. Attraction of playing for the franchise. LeBron, a history of the student of the game, and all this, appreciates the history. All that stuff's true. He wanted to live in Los Angeles. His family wanted to be in Los Angeles. He has business interests in Los Angeles. It was clear the runway and don't screw it up, and I will be there. And that's how it's been since. And I think too, and we'll break here in a second and come back and talk a little bit more about things he said, whether about Bronny, the coaching staff, and beyond. I think both sides in this equation are a little surprised. If you'd asked them 7 years ago what this was going to look like at the level of play LeBron still puts out, I think the Lakers, would absolutely put my money on that they did not think he'd still be playing at this high of a level where they'd, could have gone 3 years for him at the max, and would have if that's what LeBron wanted. And I think in his heart of hearts, I'm not even sure LeBron was sure he'd be doing this. as confident as he is in his body and his abilities. So that changes the dynamic too, because I don't know if they all expected to be here. But let's talk about his views of the offseason, where the Lakers stand, and how the rookies and youngsters are looking. All of that coming up next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. We all love sports. We love them so much that we never want them to stop. But as the playoffs in different leagues wrap up, you get fewer games, but the sports may not sports the way we want them to, but FanDuel lets you keep going with the sports whenever you want. All you got to do is open up the app, dream up the bets that you're in the mood for anytime. You got baseball, you got WNBA, you got options, people. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
So I would say LeBron went in his comments, neither went out of his way to, defend and praise the front office. But he certainly didn't bury him either. He acknowledged they tried. They made some efforts to improve the team. They at least he seemed to acknowledge that they acknowledged the players that he had mentioned, or so sort of the here are some examples of players for whom I would take less. But I think LeBron understands enough about what is going on here to see the Lakers were put in a difficult position. 4-80 for Clay, if that's where they were going. I'm not even sure that was a good idea. Not that LeBron.
I am sure it's a bad idea.
No, let me rephrase. I'm not sure LeBron cared if that was a bad idea, but I think he might understand why it is, but I don't think he would care. But it doesn't matter if the Lakers are unable to execute the deal for 5 other reasons. I think I got a strong "it is what it is" vibe, and will keep trying to improve the team. That's why he left the $3 million, and you don't have to pass a hat for the guy. There's no need for a GoFundMe, but it does give the Lakers the flexibility to try to improve the roster in more ways than they would have been able to had he taken a full max. And LeBron, at the very least, understood the dynamics of that, whether it's self-serving or not, that it's worth leaving that money on the table.
I think the way he presented it, he is obviously not satisfied with the offseason in the sense that he recognizes that they did not get demonstratively better. And we'll get into this. He actually expressed a fair amount of confidence with the roster as is, but I think he recognizes they're not definitively at the level they want to be. But if nothing else, LeBron presented it as, I'm satisfied with their efforts. He said, quote, "It takes 2 to tango. I think our front office, our coaching staff, they tried to do the thing that they wanted to do or tried to get guys to come, and it didn't happen. And that's okay. That's part of the business. I've been in this business long enough to know that sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. So we don't sit here and lie about or cry about. We move on, and Clay's a great player. Obviously, DeMar's a great player. Valanciunas was one of those guys who ended up going to Washington, was someone that was in talks with us, but we move on to see how we continue to get better." First of all, I thought it was interesting that he named the guys on the list by name. He didn't even try to shroud it with, implying that there were people that he liked or whatever. He named the actual guys. He actually confirmed, because I was not sure about this one way or the other, that they actually had made reach outs to Valanciunas. The reason I wasn't sure was just that happened so quickly.
Right.
It wasn't,
and what that means, I have no idea. They made a call, but
right.
it would have been negligent not to.
No, of course. But I'm just saying, the idea that it seemed like in LeBron's eyes, made a strong enough effort for him to be satisfied. And, he acknowledged Clay wanted to go somewhere else. DeMar wanted to go somewhere else. Valanciunas, from my perspective, I know I mentioned this last week, the Wizards are a crappy sea of dysfunction, and that's the way they've been now for quite several seasons. But from Valanciunas' perspective, if he wants a solidified, defined role and amount of playing time, going to the Wizards makes more sense for him.
Sure.
Like, as opposed to going to a team with one of the three best centers in the league. I'm not ready to put Wembanyama ahead of AD yet. So it's Jokic, it's Embiid, it's AD. Pick your order. I don't care to debate it. But either way, AD is a much better player than Valanciunas. And this is not a team that is built for AD at the 4, LeBron at the 3. So his minutes and his role, I think, could fluctuate. I don't think Valanciunas expects to finish his contract in DC. I don't know if he expects to finish this season in DC.
I agree.
But it makes much more sense for him to go to the Wizards. And I think LeBron can only ask the front office, do these things, try to make these things happen. If nothing else, we've seen LeBron will throw out the passive aggressive when he wants to. He's opting not to do it here.
I think, that kind of stuff really drives home too, like the box that the Lakers are in, because, it is hard for them. Valanciunas is no fool. He sees what is going on. Like, you agree, he wouldn't finish games in LA. Like, there's a lot of stuff he just wouldn't be able to do in terms of showcasing value. And so if that's the case, the Lakers, they're in a bind because just look at the center position. A clear backup center, not a big deal. Like, Paul Reed is out there. Like, at least I think. I know I got released.
He got waived.
We may not have cleared waivers yet. So, but like, somebody's going to scoop him up relatively quickly. But Paul Reed is out there, the former backup center for the Sixers. He was waived when they signed Andre Drummond. And so, or soon after they signed Andre Drummond. So a guy like that's a backup center. Knows what he's going to show up here, be the backup center. Valanciunas is a starting caliber player. The problem is the Lakers really can't accommodate a starting 5 that can't also function as a 4. Part of what made Miles Turner a good fit is he's flexible enough, both offensively and defensively, to be able to function in that way. The two of them are very similar in a lot of ways in terms of the ground they can cover, their mobility and all that kind of stuff. So you would have a little more flexibility in the kinds of lineups that you could put out there. Turner and Davis are both mobile enough that you might be able to cover for LeBron playing more 3, which creates issues. But Valanciunas can't do that.
And Turner is so good that for someone like him, I'm willing to deal with the problems with LeBron at the 3, just for the opportunity to potentially have AD and Turner together after LeBron's gone with a different small forward.
For sure. But Valanciunas isn't quite at that level.
No.
Very good player though.
Yeah.
It reinforces, it's another example of how the talent acquisition part of this is tricky for the Lakers. It is certainly very easy and very defensible to argue it's their fault they're in this position. They put the roster together. But in terms of what you do right now, can you trade 3 people to bring back 1? Well, maybe if that player is really, really good, but which players are you trading? Because if you trade D'Lo and Rui, for example, in the same trade, or if you have to throw Vincent in there too, because the salary you're bringing back is so high for a star or whatever, okay, that one player and the guys who you now bring in on replacement level contracts better be good enough to fill those holes, because these are really important rotation players that you're trying to replace. If you have trade Vando and you can't trade Vanderbilt and Rui for a 2-3, it's got to be, you have to bring in another forward if you're going to do that. Like, it's, trading D'Lo for a forward is tricky because now you're kind of short a point guard, unless you really believe Reeves can do it in a more traditional sense, or Gabe Vincent is going to be your starting point. Like, they are in a box, and some of it is related to the Bronny contract. We can talk a little bit about this. Where I feel like one little tweak that I wish they could do with Bronny, although maybe Sunday wasn't the best example. Like, they're in a box there, but even if Bronny was on a 2-way, you're still talking only about being able to bring in a minimum guy. So it doesn't totally solve it. Let's talk though about SPL and how the Lakers did.
I believe you mean the CC, Brian.
The raging inferno that is Las Vegas would object to my characterization, but we'll get to it next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by BetterHelp, and we all need the opportunity at times to get things off our chest, big or small. These items can build up and they really start to get to you, and it's important to have an outlet, somebody that you can talk with in your life that's unbiased, and just someplace where you can escape with real life. Like we try to make this show, Locked On Lakers, an escape from real life for our viewers, for our listeners. You love the Lakers. We love the Lakers. We want this to be a stress release, but I don't care how much purple and gold you bleed. Everybody knows there are more pressing issues in your life than the Lakers. And again, it is really important to have that outlet in your life for getting those things off your chest. And I know that speaking with a professional, with a therapist, was huge for me and my family during a really difficult period. And if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, suited for your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
So Saturday, Andy, up in San Francisco in the first game of the California Classic, the Lakers were beaten by the Summer Kings. The Summer Lakers beaten by the Summer Kings. And while some of the percentages and things like that weren't great, Dalton Knecht didn't shoot well. Bronny James didn't shoot well. Colin Castleton actually missed some shots that you would think should go down and things like that. Overall, I was like, you know what? Okay, I can see it. I can see it with Knecht, especially when you try to figure out, he's nothing that happens in the summer, particularly, you look over the weekend, is really going to be reflective of how he's used on an NBA floor when he's with LeBron and AD. Like, he's going to, the utilization is going to be completely different. And you could see the skill coming off screens, the ability to make connecting passes. He looked pretty good as a ball mover in the pick and roll, stuff like that. Bronny James, I thought, obviously a rough product offensively, but everybody knew that going in, but you could see the defensive instincts for sure. And just a smart decision maker with the ball, a lot of good plays in transition and things like that. I was okay. I could see it. Sunday was a total disaster for the entire team, even the guys who played well. Maxwell Lewis had a great offensive game on Saturday, missed every shot he took on Sunday. Hinson, the two-way guy, missed, I think, his first two shots coming off the bench on Saturday, and then like 5 straight threes, and looked like Steph Curry doing it, a bigger version. He was 2 of 10 on Sunday. It was just everything about Sunday was a total disaster. So as a veteran of Summer Pro League watching, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, we've talked before that there are certain things that you care about with Summer Pro League. And as you said before, like the stuff that is in Vegas is going to be, hopefully one would think, a little more organized. Like they basically have gone from Bronny and Dalton Knecht's introductory press conference straight to practice, straight to the Bay Area. So, I mean, this group has had very little time together, and it often looks like they've just met. Hopefully you will see more cohesion in Vegas. But for guys like Castleton and Lewis, how they look, I think, matters in the sense that if you're a second-year guy and you struggle in the Summer Pro League, that's often a pretty big red flag. I mean, it's a big reason why it's disappointing not to see Jalen Hood-Schifino get the opportunity to play in the Summer Pro League, because he's often done really well in the G League last year. As bad as the overwhelming majority of his big boy NBA minutes looked, and he often looked overwhelmed, and as it turned out, he was physically dealing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he is, but just so people know, is not skipping Summer League because he thinks he's too good for it. He's still in the middle of his rehab for the back procedure that he got on the offseason. They just don't want him playing yet.
Right. So it's disappointing that you don't get to see him in this because A, I think he could use the reps, but B, if he played well in this, it doesn't silence all the concerns, but at least it makes you feel good about him heading into this next year. Like, you want to see Castleton and Lewis look like they did in the first game, because I think that matters in terms of just their overall progression. Like how Dalton Connect and Bronny, for example, play in this thing, like their overall stats. LeBron has said, like, it doesn't matter if Bronny plays well, it doesn't matter if he plays poorly. Like when you look at, again, the stat line and sort of the broadly results, what matters is if you watch someone like Dalton Connect, some of his instincts and like, you know, the way that he can get into the lane, or some of the passes that he threw while penetrating. Like he had a couple really nice feeds, or you mentioned like Bronny's instincts. With the rookies, what you really want to do is just sort of gauge, how do they look out there? You know, how are they looking to get their shots more than did the shots go down or not? Like, and you can see Dalton Connect's form. The guy is clearly, he's a shooter. Like he knows what he's doing. I think it's interesting to see him focus as much on things inside the arc as outside, and, you know, looking to get to the rim as much as they have. I think it's really interesting to see how much of the offense they've often run through Colin Castleton, letting him work as like a hub and doing a lot of dribble handoffs and things like that.
They did that. That's sort of how they used it a lot last year in summer league preseason. That's definitely his skill set. I mean, I would have loved to have seen, again, you know, you saw the, not great defensively, but you saw the offense. It's hard for summer league teams are not going to be good defensively. It's very difficult to be cohesive. Again, after everybody is they're both new, and everybody's trying, especially so many guys are like trying to do like superhero stuff because they're trying to make rosters. It just doesn't make for great basketball. That said, Maxwell Lewis, not great on that side of the ball, but you saw like, ooh, there's some burst here, and his arms and legs just seem so long, and the bounce was there, and you know, his ability to, you know, either get a nice play on Saturday, you know, little pump fake, gets to the rim. Like the athleticism with Lewis is insane. And then he comes back and was 0 for 8 on Sunday. And I think with second year players, you know, this is what Christie did, you know, I think last season, memory serves, is that you want these guys to look like they're too good to be in the league. Like they should not be playing in summer league.
Which Christie did.
Lewis did not do that on Sunday. Castleton, he had 10 rebounds on Sunday, but overall, like the shooting efficiency not there. And like, you know, you wonder with guys like that, are they tweeners? You know, in baseball, they call them 4A players, where you're too good for AAA, but you're not good enough for the majors. And I think with Castleton, for example, like one of the things I was thinking about with Bronny's contract, for example, like if Bronny had a two-way, I actually wouldn't mind seeing Castleton get Bronny's regular spot.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like as like a guy, you know, rather than, and then like I'm not 100% sure that the type of center that they're going to be able to go out and get is really going to be any better than Colin Castleton. And look, the two-way thing offers plenty of flexibility, and if it looks like he's going to play more, they'll figure out a way to get him, you know, converted on a contract. But like
he might eventually have the spot currently being held by Cam Reddish, Christian Wood, and Jackson Hayes.
They might just go ahead and, you know, they trade one of those guys to clear space out. It might just be rip up Castleton's two-way and give him a regular contract, or they might just wait because that's the luxury that they have because he is under contract with that two-way. But it's little stuff like that. I don't, you know, they don't have access to some world-beating player, even if they had an open roster spot, because they still couldn't use their larger exception yet. Or it would be hard to sign somebody into it. You have to make a lot of moves. Little disappointed by Castleton, not terribly, but a little bit. I think Connect, other than the shots, I like kind of watching everything except what happened at the end of the shot. Like just, you know, looking like, you know, flow of the game, all that kind of stuff seemed like I just expected the ball to go in more, and it will. I thought Bronny showed why. Like, okay, like, you know, Bronny to me on Saturday looked almost exactly like the scouting report. Very strong defensive instincts, good decision maker, rough offensively. I wish they would have put the ball in his hands a little bit more just to see what that looked like. And then Maxwell Lewis, I'm a little disappointed, mostly in the sense that he wasn't able to carry Saturday's momentum into Sunday. But again, second year player. But that said, there's still a lot of summer league left. All of these guys are going to play. Bronny, for people who don't know, didn't play on Sunday. Just a reminder. I don't know if you mentioned that or not. He had knee swelling. Oh yeah, we talked about it at the top of the show. But we'll see a lot more of these guys. 5 or 6 more games, and I'm certainly willing to reserve judgment before until we get there.
Yeah, I liked a lot of what I saw from Castleton offensively, but defensively, like the dude's got to get in the weight room. Like he gets pushed around a lot.
Good rebounder. I mean, he
is a good rebounder, but he gets pushed around a lot when he is attempting to defend. You mentioned with Lewis, just that side of the floor in general, overall awareness. I thought Bronny had definitely, and we can get into also to some of LeBron's comments about Bronny were interesting, but I do like his instincts. You could see him at times too, as strong as a kid as he is, particularly that size. He got pushed around a lot too.
Oh, for sure.
And there were a few times he got absolutely murdered on screens. And
yeah, I mean, he fought over a few of them. I mean, he's 19. And, 19-year-olds are going to get absolutely a lot of that stuff. I mean, there were a few good ones that he was able to go through. And he's strong. He's a strong 19-year-old, but definitely But you're going to be that undersized. You got to be like, Chuck
Marcus
Hayes,
Smart,
right? Marcus Smart, a backcourt version of Chuck Hayes, where you're like a tree stump and they just can't move you. I think that part of it doesn't bother me.
LeBron actually, as part of this long form interview with ESPN, talked a lot about Bronny and talked about how Bronny is prepared for this, but also to the work that Bronny's done. He said, quote, "I don't know if people really understand Bronny. He doesn't care about the pressure, the spotlight, the whatever. I actually care a little bit. When I came in as a rookie, I wanted people to like me, and some of the things people were saying about me kind of bothered me early on. He does not give a bleep. He does not care about nobody. He doesn't even listen to this stuff. He's like the coolest. He's the complete opposite of his dad. His dad will say things to address critics. Bro does not care." I mean, it's interesting because Bronny has acknowledged his words, the amplified pressure for him specifically being on the Lakers. But I do agree that
he's answering the question. He's not freaking out over it.
No, but he also could have downplayed it instead of. He acknowledged it's been this way my whole life. He's pretty used to it being like this, but he could have downplayed the idea of it being additional pressure. He actually said, no, the pressure is amplified, which I thought
there's a difference between downplaying and lying. He's not lying.
A lot of people lie about it. Brian, a lot of people lie. Sure. The more common thing for people to do in this situation is lie and say they're not worrying about it, they're not feeling it. Nobody ever admits that they feel anything.
But wouldn't you agree? And I know you're not criticizing the kid, but I mean, wouldn't you agree the better answer is the one he gave, where you acknowledge the obvious answer?
Yes, it is. And I'm saying this as a compliment to him. I mean, everybody feels pressured.
But yeah, this is something we can certainly get into over the course of the week. More summer league games. We'll see if the Lakers are able to do something as fans want. Although I do think at this point it's going to become a pretty slow burn between now and the beginning of training camp at the very least. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with over 24,000 subscribers, leave questions, leave comments. We'll see everyone tomorrow.